Well, quite a strange Saturday at the tournament. Just when we were looking at a pattern forming, anyone and everyone being able to chase totals down with one notable exception. We've had two matches in a doubleheader, both where teams have defended successfully. First in the afternoon, and here Gujarat getting over the line by, well, not that many runs, but in the end it was comfortable. That 14 runs margin, perhaps a little flattering for Delhi at the end in terms of their net run rate at the end. One blow from Kuldeep Yadav giving them a little bit of relief. But after that, apart from that, 171 for six made to look like about 190 by particularly Lockie Ferguson. 4 for 28 in his 4 overs and some searing pace that we saw. Here we are on Cricbuzz Live at the end of 2 games. A long Saturday to review both of them, but we'll start in reverse order by the match we've just finished. Joy and Harsha in the house. Harsha, we kept thinking Delhi were in the hunt. They were in the hunt. They won the last game when they were not in the hunt. They lost this game while they were in the hunt.
They're definitely in the hunt, and they had the batting to do it. It's just that I'm not convinced about the batting order. I think it'll change a lot. They'll probably be looking at someone for Mandi, and they need to look at someone at 3. But Robin Powell is not number 6. I think he's coming in a little too late. If Robin Powell bats number 4 for the West Indies, I'd like to see the same side with Powell and Lalit Yadav interchanging positions. But they will look very different once Warner comes in. So it's one of those days. I think the bowling side is all right. Heinrich Nokia will come in and strengthen it. But purely in terms of batting, look at the results we're getting from Gujarat Titans. And I think the Gujarat Titans are telling us that they're becoming contenders to being the best bowling side, because they've got 2 quality pace bowlers in Shami and Lockie, and Rashid Khan, the best leg spinner in the game. So that's 12 overs done there. Now look what Hardik Pandya's 4 overs are doing. They can actually say, they look Varun Aaron, Vijay Shankar, Rahul Tewatia. They don't need to go 3 bowlers to bowl 4. They can actually leave out one of those and strengthen their batting if they can. The problem is they don't have any, but they could look at another batsman too. But those are 4 quality bowlers. I'm looking at Hardik, and a couple of balls went past 140, and it's almost as if I shouted, Hardik, don't. 135 is okay, 138, don't do your back again. But he was looking in very, very good rhythm, Hardik Pandya. And he's like the high school monitor, isn't he? I'll bat number 4 and pull the new ball. But good on him, he's looking good.
With something we mentioned on Cricbuzz Combox, but the reverse of what Harsha just said, Joy, was instead of somebody sending him a message like Harsha saying, don't, it was Hardik who's sending a message all around saying, look.
Absolutely. I mean, he's doing auditions even for the T20 World Cup. I mean, he's doing auditions for everybody who also didn't pick him in the auction or didn't retain him. So I think he's a lot of point to prove. And I think people like Hardik, they're motivated by it. I think what Harsha's saying is completely justified is don't overdo it. Please don't get yourself injured. That will be a disaster, because the balance of this side so strongly depends on with the 3 good bowlers, when the 4th bowler starts giving you a quality, then it really opens up so many options for them. It's not funny. So yeah, this Gujarat team, and look, from the very start, and I've been talking to Ashish Nehra before the auction, he's been very clear about the fact that he felt that bowlers are what win matches in T20 matches. And he felt that he needed to have a really good bowling attack. I think he's delivered that. If Shubman bats the way he does, he gets a little bit of support, this could be a dangerous side.
Yeah, it certainly could be. But I think the intent, whether you look at the performance, Harsha, whether you look at the 140 plus, but I think one thing that sums it up for me also is the fact that he came in right in the beginning. Intent. I'm going to open the bowling. I'm not your 3rd or 4th. There's Shami, there's Ferguson, but I'm going to start things off.
Look, I'm going to go one step beyond what Joy said. I don't think, he is auditioning. I think he's telling everybody, come look at me, I'm going to give you the bowling. But the moment he gives the bowling, the moment he gives you 2 or 3 overs every game, let alone 4, he walks into that side at number 6. He walks into the Indian team at number 6. He's also trying to say, come look at me, I'm batting at 4, I'm a batsman. So Hardik coming in at 6, Jadeja at 7. I've always said that's your dream balance. Hardik at 6, Jadeja at 7. And then if you have Shardul at 8, then you're saying, okay, 6, 7, 8, between them are giving me 8 overs. So I think this is, if he can keep his fitness and he can deliver overs. Remember, Australia, big boundaries. He likes to bowl back of a length. He likes to get the ball to skid. He hits the ball a long way. If he is playing like this, then it's fantastic for India. also the way they're bowling. I think it's fair to say what Joy said. Bowlers win championships. We saw that with the Sunrisers in 2016. The bowlers won them a championship. You could argue that in 2020, the batsmen won Mumbai Indians, but there again, Bumrah and Bolt and others were doing it. You cannot win an IPL unless you've got a really kadak bowling side. And Gujarat Titans are saying, look at our bowling.
And if 140 was good, close to 150 was even better, Joy. Kadak would be an understatement to describe Lockie Ferguson today. It was really too hot to handle. You could see it in any format of the game. He could be bowling with the red ball or the white ball. He was outstanding, Joy.
Outstanding. And I think actually, you may think about that with that kind of pace, he should be bowling up front. But I think they did a smart thing. Kolkata also last year, if you remember, they used him as the first change bowler because they are not used to guys coming in the 5th, 6th over, bowling that kind of place, attacking that middle overs. So attacking in the middle overs, if you see, that's something that now with this current formation, Gujarat do very well because you have Lockie and Rashid attacking in the middle overs. They're not defending. They're not trying to hold back runs. They're trying to take wickets in the middle overs. And that's why you see, if you see Delhi's batting, they lost wickets steadily throughout. It's not, they just couldn't, they kept losing wickets. And that's basically what reached them to a situation where they just finally didn't have the firepower to go over the line. And that is the key to it. Lockie and Rashid in the middle overs.
And they needed Lockie, Harsha. I mean, given the fact that like Bumrah in his opening match, Mohammad Shami will typically come in that power play, give you a couple of wickets every single time. He went wicketless, even looked a little off colour until he came back for his second spell. So Lockie needed to compensate for that. Even Rashid waited till his last ball before he picked up a wicket.
And have you seen an interesting trend coming up, whether it's Hardik Pandya, who's captain of Gujarat Titans, or some other teams that we've seen? They're saying, if we've got early wickets, we'll get all our strike bowlers in early. We'll try and finish the game 18, 19. Doesn't matter if we leave slightly iffy bowlers for 19 and 20 at the end, but we'll go up front. So today, Rashid up front, Lockie Ferguson up front, and by 17, they had bowled all their main bowlers out. Then Hardik comes back. I think Hardik bowled 18 or 9, whatever. But the general trend now seems to be attacking captaincy. Let's go and let's pick up wickets, which is wonderful to see because it brings you back to the feeling that look, wickets are important. So again, Ferguson. So maybe they think that look, let's let Ferguson and Rashid control wickets because when you take wickets in the middle overs, you win a lot of games. So if Hardik and Shami can give you the new ball and Ferguson and Rashid can bowl the middle overs, that's a great combination for them.
And he also seems to be comfortable in the role. I know we made a little brief reference to Hardik versus Jadeja in terms of their captaincy. Yes, winning helps, Joy. But despite that, 2 matches down, body language on the field, tactics, report card, Hardik Pandya captain.
I like what he's doing because, again, Hardik is the kind of guy who, if he's himself fit and playing well, will always be a good captain. They used to say that a lot about Shorav as well. When Shorav was batting himself well, he was confident about his own batting. Yeah. He was a better captain. And I think Hardik is a lot that way. He's fed into it. My problem with Jadeja, and I think we should discuss him much more because we have a match after it, is he seems to be affected by his captaincy. It seems to be on his mind. And anything being on Jadeja's mind other than that immediate fielding or the immediate ball or the immediate bat that he's got in his hand is a problem for Chennai. He's an instinctive cricketer, and some way I feel that this captaincy is taking away from that absolutely amazing instinctive cricketer.
We'll come back to that. As you said in the preview, we're going to be looking ahead to Chennai playing on Sunday evening. But one of the problems we briefly touched on, Harsha, was Delhi's number 3. David Warner pretty much walks in place of Tim Seifert. He's got Prithvi Shaw for company. Now, Mandeep Singh, despite hitting the ball well in the nets, hasn't really lived up to potential. Lots of options. Who would be your choice at number 3?
I'm just trying to see because they've got to keep that. Let's look at the Delhi squad. They've got to keep that place open for Mitch Marsh. Now, if there is no Mitch Marsh, what are their options at 3? They could either ask Sarfraz if he can go in and bat at 3, or they could say, okay, we'll play KS Bharat purely as a batsman. He batted at 3 for
Bangalore
for RCB last year, or they could go Yash Dhul and say, okay, we'll give the young kid a go and see if he comes good. So they might do that. They've given Mandeep a couple of games. I don't know what the philosophy is. If their philosophy is each player gets 3 or 4 games, they might give Mandeep a little bit more. But yeah, they need someone to own number 3, because if they do, the rest of the batting then falls into place with the Pant at 4 and Powell at 5. I don't see Powell coming 6 again. He should not be coming 6 again. Powell should be winning games, not rescuing games. So I see Powell at 5, Lalit Yadav at 6. So yeah, you're right that number 3 they need to fill. Both teams that played today need to relook at number 3.
Yeah, they certainly do. Joy, you have any thoughts? Who would be your choice if you were Ricky Ponting at the moment? On the assumption, of course, that Mitch Marsh is going to take a while to recover from that.
I genuinely believe Sarfraz should be batting somewhere there, and you could do a lot of things. You could Sarfraz is the kind of person who can open as well, and if he opens as well, then you basically bat Seifert at 3 and allow him a little bit more of a holding role at the back. So there's lots of things you can do out there. There's talent out there. I mean, people like Yash Dhal and Sarfraz Khan are missing matches. So it's not as if Mandeep is the first choice. My point is Mandeep, I really like Mandeep. He's been around for 10, 11 years in the IPL. He's been playing since 2010. He's not had that standout season. And the reason is that one of the problems he has is that if he survives also, assuming he survives a power play, he struggles to clear once that first 6 overs are over. So what happens is then you have a situation where, he's there, he's set, but he can't cross the line. And where that immediately the run rate starts dropping. So those are some of the problems that you have with Mandeep out there. I think they'd be better off looking at somebody like Sarfraz or Yash.
Yeah. My question is, where does Sarfraz... Can Sarfraz bat at 3, for example? Because otherwise they need someone like... Check if Lalit Yadav can bat at 3. Or they might just say, look, till Mitch Marsh is done, we'll send Pant will bat at 3. Robin Powell will bat at 4. Lalit at 5 or Sarfraz at 5, Lalit Yadav at 6. They could do that and say, okay, let's have Rishabh Pant batting at number 3. Alternately, from what I saw of Yash Dhul, there are some players, like with Tilak Varma today, you just look at them and say, can't take my eyes off him. So I'd heard about 2 players. One was Sheikh Rashid and one was Yash Dhul. And so I sat down one day, I said, nah, I'm just watching India bat at this under-19 World Cup. And I thought, Sheikh Rashid, good player, comes behind line, tucked up. And then this kid came in and I said, nah, there's something about this kid. He's different. There's something about this kid. And then I discovered that he goes to Delhi, the Ranji Trophy. They say, sorry, there's no place for you. You can only open the batting. Do you want to open? He says, yes. And he gets 200s there. So it tells me he can bat at 3. If he can open the batting in the Ranji Trophy and get 100s, it tells me he can bat at 3. His natural style is to go for it. I won't be surprised at all if they say, Yash Dhul, come on, here's 3 games for you at number 3. And we saw what Tilak Varma can do. What a player we found. Yeah. I mean, he's the kind of player you don't take your eyes off. I think Yash Dhul could be that person. I'm basing from what I've seen on under-19. I didn't see those Ranji Trophy innings, but I won't be surprised if he goes 3.
Yeah, I mean, I spoke to a couple of guys who did watch him bat there, and they said it was the stepping stone. Certainly, the under-19 World Cup is there. There are some of the youngsters who are playing in this tournament. Maybe that step up is a little too much for them. But I think the perfect in-between step for Yash Dhul was that Ranji Trophy experience. And of course, he came off it better with those 100s. So looks like there's potential there. Ricky Ponting will have heard enough about it, even if he hadn't seen it. And there's lots in the camp, I think, who will have been closer to the action there.
Ponting will have done his homework completely. So Ponting will know everything that there is. They probably just think, look, Mandeep's an experienced guy. Start of the tournament, you need someone experienced at number 3. That's probably what they're thinking. They've at least got options. I think the bigger issue is what do Gujarat Titans do at number 3? Because once they get to 4, 5, 6, 7, they're looking very good. But 1, 2, 3, or even 4, if Hardik continues to bat at 4, it's a separate story. But I don't think Hardik should be playing those hang-in-there kind of innings. So I think they have a big issue at 3.
Well, since Harsha did mention Tilak Varma, he did perform in the previous game. It seems like an awfully long time ago. But yes, it's one of 2 games where the side batting first defended. Rajasthan, of course, had a lot more on the board than Gujarat did in the evening. 193 for 8. But for the longest time, it looked like when Ishan Kishan, Tilak Varma were going well, that it would be within their sights. But once those wickets fell, some outstanding spin bowling, particularly from Yuzvendra Chahal and also Ravichandran Ashwin, meant that everything turned around. But let's start this discussion, Harsha, since you've mentioned him already, with someone from the losing side. Yes, he fell short today, but enough seen about Tilak Varma that he belongs.
So I'd heard about Tilak Varma. And I knew there must be something about Tilak Varma, because let's see, how much did he go for in the auction? Where are we? Tilak Varma, 1.7 crores. Now, if there's an under 19 kid who's going 1.7 crores, that means 2 or 3 franchises want him. So straight away, so I asked a few people, and I think this Parthiv Patel told me how excited they were about getting Tilak Varma. He also told me about a couple of other people. Then I started looking at his numbers. But when he came into bat in that first game, he only made 20 odd, I think, in that game. But his first tuck, and I say, oh, hang on. I'm not going and picking up. I'm not going for dinner. I'm just watching this kid bat. He had that ability to do that. And what he did today was extraordinary. So I'm just thinking, what if Surya Kumar Yadav has to play? They're missing him desperately. But the moment Surya Kumar Yadav comes in, this kid is ready at number 3. He will miss out on a couple of games. That's okay. But Rohit Sharma, Ishan Kishan, Tilak Varma, Surya Kumar Yadav, it's looking fantastic. So, I mean, if Tim David and the others start to get in, then that's fantastic. But otherwise, that's a great top 4.
Yep. Once Surya Kumar Yadav comes in, I think the batting box will be ticked more than comprehensively, Joy.
He bowls too.
Yeah, Tilak Varma bowls too, but he probably won't fix their batting problems, rather their bowling problems at the moment. Led by Jasprit Bumrah, outstanding, had one bad day, Joy, but they are going to have to look for something in that combination where a Bolt or someone like a Bolt needs to be a support for Jasprit Bumrah, if not more than one person.
No, I think, look, Bolt will give you something. I think Thumpy is just, they've had the situation. I'm actually more worried about Tim David, because they've really spent a lot of money on Tim David. And if they want to look at an international batsman to replace him or international player to replace him, the nearest like for like Harsha would be Fabian Allen. I mean, can bat really hit the ball out of the ground? And
but I think Fabian Allen is, when the tracks get a little slower, the replacement for Daniel Sams, because he'll bat at 7 and give you overs there. I think they intended to have Tim David batting the entire season. The option to Tim David, because they don't have Indian batsmen around. If you look at this side, they don't have any Indian batsmen around. That's why they've played Anmolpreet Singh here at number 4 in 2 games. So the only option is they go and throw young Dual Brevis in.
Brevison, yeah, that's the only option they have.
And say, let's take a look. Yeah, but they won't do that for another 2 or 3 games at least.
Yep. So there certainly a few problems in terms of getting their bowling right, but it's something they'll talk about very, very quickly. Knowing that Surya Kumar Yadav was on the verge of playing today's game, but they probably felt that it was not 100% healed. Maybe a couple of shots he hit in the nets, he felt the pain. So we're going to wait and see about Surya Kumar Yadav. But the man of the day, Jos Buttler, 100 of 66 balls. Yes, a little bit ironical, Harsha, that it's the slowest IPL 100 in 10 years.
Can you imagine? I mean, look at the way he started. I mean, when you think of all the great T20 batsmen of our times and the others, you say Chris Gayle, you say A.B. de Villiers, you talk about Virat Kohli, recent times you talk about Babar Azam, Mohammad Rizwan, you talk about some of these great players. It's amazing how Jos Buttler just slips through that net. He's got a strike rate of 150 in the IPL. You saw how he controlled the match in the power play today. Oh, he was fantastic. I mean, that phase when Buttler and Sanju Samson were batting was so good to watch. I mean, most days you'll take 100 or 68 balls, won't you? I mean, if you're looking at a 150 strike rate game, right? 150 strike rate means you're looking at a 180 game. So if somebody is playing 68 balls and playing a sort of 170 kind of game, you just need someone to have a flyer and you've got your 180, 185 game, which is exactly what happened. I can't believe that stat.
Yeah, I'm just trying to read more into it, Joy. It probably means that the kind of players who have got hundreds, and there have been some who have got just 100 and disappeared, but they've just got it in a fashion that nobody knew what was happening at the time.
No, absolutely. Tearaway hundreds, as they call it. You really are in a situation where you've scored and you've just kept scoring very fast tearaway hundreds. Here, if you notice, he actually he reached 98 in about 58 balls. And then there was this big gap where he was just not getting bat and ball. That was the one that took time.
Okay.
So he was there at 98 in about much distinct. So 7-8 balls he wasted at that period in time. But look, in any case, he was the guy. With him and Sanju Samson, they were the game. They set this up and they put it up to such a total that finally at the end of the day, once Tilak Varma went out, Mumbai didn't have too much of a chance. Because again, as I said, Tim David is not looking the part as yet. If Pollard fails, they don't know where to go after that.
But I think one more time, Harsha, you'd like to reiterate that whether you had the firepower of Sams, David and Pollard, you had the class of Ashwin and Chahal up against them.
Just before we get there, Joy's right. He was 96 of 59 balls. So he could have finished 100 of 60 balls. You're right. Oh, they were fantastic. I love that. If I was a television producer, I'd have just had two looks. I would have had the look on Ashwin's face when this young whippersnapper, who's not around when Ashwin starts to play cricket almost, he's probably a little kid who's asking someone to do his shoelaces for him, and he reverse sweeps him for a huge six. And then Ashwin's face, I think it's part admiration, part saying, what just happened there? And then the joy when he says, okay, young man, you got a few more summers to see. He just pulled the length back. That was great spin bowling. And then Chahal was fantastic. I mean, in Ashwin and Chahal, already we are starting to see there's some good spin bowlers, but Ashwin and Chahal and Varun and Sunil Narayan, we've got two teams with fantastic spin.
Yeah, and I think we're already starting to see some of the key players who have gone to different franchises, who, Joy, might have been contenders for retention. So it'll be interesting to see A, how their performances go, but B, when they come up against the franchise that let them go.
Absolutely. There's always a little bit of that. There's always a little bit of that. Chahal is, I also love the way they're bowling, because finally also remember one thing, spin bowlers actually like to bowl in pairs because you can tie them down easier. And with spinners, you just need to take a little bit more of a risk to clear the boundary. So when the two of them somehow get together, it's like the wolf pack, they're hunting together, and it's just a very, very good bowling attack. With those four, it's an excellent bowling attack. This is a Rajasthan team to really watch out for.
Gives you so many options in the middle overs, and someone like Ashwin can give you an over in the power play as well, sometimes 2 overs in the power play. And I'm looking at Ashwin, I think he's enjoying bowling this white ball game. He's not bowling that kind of off spin anyway. He's bowling a lot of balls that are going the other way. He's bowling a lot of carom balls. But I think if you ask him, he would have enjoyed the Tilak Varma dismissal, because that was classic test match spin bowling. I'll toss it up, the ball will dip on you. It's not where you think it is. So many times, what the dip does is when you want to sweep the ball and it's not there, you look a bit silly sometimes. And that he'll have enjoyed that.
And you're talking about two spinners who bowled in tandem, who bowled beautifully, and they were the follow-ups to two certain gentlemen called Bolt and Prasidh Krishna. So if you have a look at that overall bowling unit, it's looking really lethal, just the opposite of what Mumbai was. So things to think about for Mumbai, and plenty to celebrate for Rajasthan as they go forward. It will be reflected in the points table when we do have a look at that, with the two games, both teams having defended. Rajasthan right on top, healthy net run rate, 4 points on the board, followed by Kolkata with their 3 games. They played more than anybody else, and Gujarat also with 100% record. But Harsha, if you look at one thing in common with the 3 teams at the bottom, they're all former title winners. The 3 teams without any points so far.
Yes, so you look from 2014 onwards. Those are the 3 teams that have won it from 14 onwards.
Yeah.
The reason I said from 14 onwards, of course, is that KKR won it in 14. But I'd like to look at the table again to see if there's anything. It's very early days, but see if we can find something common in the top 3. Rajasthan, as we saw today, excellent bowling side. Gujarat, as we saw today, very good bowling side. Kolkata, I'm just looking at the Kolkata bowling side, and there's still no Cummins in there. But Tim Southee has bowled really well. Umesh Yadav has bowled really well. Umesh Yadav, Varun Chakravarti, Sunil Narayan. So there's another very good bowling side there. So it seems to me that with the tracks having a little bit of fizz, because you're playing 15 and 20 games on the same pitches, these tracks are hard, bouncy, fizzy, and suddenly the bowlers are saying, you know what, get my canines back. You've taken all my canines and put them back, get my incisors back. Batsman, I'm coming at you with teeth. And it's wonderful to see.
And overall, it's been quality bowling, Joy. It's not that we are pointing at one particular type of bowler. It's not just a Lockie at 150 who enjoyed it. It's quality spin, quality pace, good bowling, results are coming.
Absolutely. And guys who are attacking, simply that's a simple thing. Every one of the 3 teams that are up there, they are not trying to contain. They're trying to take wickets. Look at Umesh up front for Kolkata. He's bustling in. He's trying to take wickets. Shami out here. They are wicket-taking bowlers, and that is what is making a difference. I think for a long time and in the middle, you've had a situation where bowlers were trying to contain, and I think somewhere we've rediscovered the joy of bowlers actually hunting instead of defending. And I think it's a very, very, the fact that this is giving results is portends really well for this tournament.
Yep. So quality making way in the end, and at the end of game number 10, that's how everything stands. But of course, it's non-stop action. We're finished with the double header on Saturday, and all the action now shifts to a single header. It's a rarity. A single header on a Sunday. That's going to come from the Brabant Stadium on Sunday night. It's going to be Chennai taking on Punjab. Chennai will be desperate for a win. Punjab, of course, looking to sort things out. A little bit up and down start to the season. Joy, if you look at these two sides, I think for Chennai, it's going to be crucial. The discussion we were having earlier, starting from the captain, the new captain.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough because, look, the problem is not whether he's taking good decisions or not, because you can easily argue that Dhoni's taking a lot of the decisions, or Fleming is taking some of those decisions, especially when they're batting. The question is it impacting his play? Because he's a really important member in the side. He's the guy retained for 16 crores. He's the guy who's a late order finisher. He's a fantastic electrifying fielder. And he's a 4 overs definite bowler in most conditions. Of course, Dhoni used to use him differently in most conditions. So now, is this guy getting impacted? Because if he's getting impacted, then it matters even more to them, because he's a very, very crucial player to them.
Harsha, are we losing out on Jadeja, the player?
Yeah, could be. Now look at when Dhoni's finest hour. Well, he had many, but look at when he first told the world, "I'm a good leader." It was when India moved from England, where Rahul Dravid was the captain, and went to South Africa to play the T20 World Cup. No Dravid, no Tendulkar, no Ganguly, and he's not thinking, "Oh, what are the seniors doing?" Because he's still not captain enough to tell the seniors what he thinks. And Dhoni evolves as a captain. Can you imagine what it must be like for Jadeja? It's like you go back into the 70s and there's a rookie actor, not a rookie actor, but someone who's been around for a while, gets into this big multi-starrer, and they're telling Amitabh Bachchan, "Ke na, aap na hero ke bhai ka role play karo."
That's a brilliant analogy.
I wonder if Jadeja is in awe of Dhoni. I won't be surprised if he's in awe of Dhoni. And suddenly he's got to be captain. Now, it's doing two things. I wonder if Jadeja is more at home fielding at deep mid-wicket. He's a sensational fielder, as we know, leaving Dhoni to control the angles. But everywhere Jadeja looks, and I hope he's not looking on social media, I hope he's not looking here and there, everywhere he looks, people are saying Dhoni is captain. So suddenly, what is his self-worth? What is his value? And I wonder if Dhoni he can't step aside because he's the Talai, he's the head of the family, he can't step aside. But whether Dhoni just sits back and says, "Chal, tu kar le." I wonder, because that is what helped Dhoni.
But my question, my counter question to that, Harsha, is,
too big a shadow.
Let's assume he does that. Let's assume even if it's about optics on the field, when they're on the field. But is it still giving Jadeja something to do which he doesn't want to do?
We'll know in course of time. But there was one thing that struck me the other day. Jadeja had to bowl. Who bowled the last over for Chennai? Where was that game?
Mukesh Chaudhary or Tushar? Mukesh Chaudhary.
Mukesh Chaudhary bowled the last over.
I'm just pulling out that game in the scorecard. Shivam Dube bowled the 19th over.
Yeah. And Mukesh bowled the 20th.
Now you have Jadeja, you have Moeen Ali. It's a wet ball, we know, but they're changing the ball. So it's not a 19 over wet ball, it's a 5-6 over wet ball. Irrespective, the international bowler put his hand up and said, "Yes, I might be a spinner, but I should back myself above Shivam Dube." They threw the poor kid under the bus. So that is where I thought he was holding back a little bit. There, I think Jadeja should have said, "I'm going to bowl. Doesn't matter if I go for 25, but it's my job as a senior bowler to come in and bowl over here." So, yeah.
Fair call. But I mean, at least what we heard from Stephen Fleming at the post-match press conference was, he used the word "we." He didn't point to Jadeja or Dhoni or anyone. He said, "We as a unit felt it had to go to Shivam Dube because the ball was not suitable for either Moeen Ali or Jadeja."
Yeah. Joy will explain. Joy comes from an army family. Joy is not going to say if a mission goes wrong, that he did it wrong, we did it wrong.
Absolutely. And not only that, it's just, look, the last over Jadeja bowled in that match, if I remember right, was the 11th or 12th over. So between the 12th and the 16th, 17th over, there was enough opportunity to slip in one over from Jadeja or Moeen Ali, depending on whether they were left-handers or right-handers batting. And that's my point, that you didn't need to do that. Secondly, Pretorius, if you had to bowl Shivam Dube or, even had to bowl Mukesh Chaudhary, slip in that over in the middle so that Pretorius, or you have Dwayne Bravo and Pretorius, how can you finish? What calculation have you done that with Dwayne Bravo and Pretorius in your team, you're ending with Shivam Dube and Mukesh Chaudhary? Whatever went wrong, definitely went wrong at that point in time.
They thought they'll get the wickets, but I'm just looking down
the other logic, Harsha. Your logic of what Gujarat did today, finished the match by the 17th.
Yeah, but they didn't have the power bowling. They had people who were taking pace off. Joy, just to answer your question, Jadeja bowled 7 and 9. That's it. And Moeen Ali bowled 8. Moeen Ali finished at 8. Moeen Ali didn't bowl after 8. And Jadeja didn't bowl after 9.
So that's the point, that between 9 and 17, could they have not got one more over out of these two?
Well, especially because they were changing the ball in between. Maybe they could have slipped one in. But Gautam, since we brought up that topic about the bowlers, here's what happened to CSK. If you look at CSK's bowling side in that day, Mukesh Chaudhary, Tushar Deshpande, Shivam Dube, between them bowled 8-9 overs. And every team is boasting of really quality pace bowling. And I think they're struggling over there. Dwayne Bravo is pace off most of the time, but he bowled 130 odd. Pretorius is pace off. He bowled beautifully the other day. I don't know how long they let him bowl like that, but he was 120, 122, 125. They don't have pace bowling. Mukesh Chaudhary, Tushar Deshpande, talented as they might be, opposition is not saying, oops, what do I do?
Yeah, well, normally when we're looking ahead to another game, we're only talking about possible personnel, possible changes, but there's a little bit more going on there, which is why we started our discussion talking about Jadeja, the captain, and things going on in the camp. But let's actually have a look at the squad there, Harsha, and see what we can see as their perfect 11 at the moment. We talked about Mukesh Chaudhary. We talked about Tushar Deshpande. They do have some options. Adam Milne, of course, was injured for that particular game, so he wasn't an option. But both in the spin department and the pace department, they've got some interesting options. Thikshana being one of them from Sri Lanka.
Yeah, so at the moment, they played their last game. They played Moeen, they played Pretorius, and they played Bravo. They played only 3 overseas players. I think the problem is that Chris Jordan is still recovering. I think he had tonsillitis. So Chris Jordan's still recovering. That's why I can see as soon as Chris Jordan becomes fit, he probably takes one of these places. Adam Milne has a side strain. That's not going to go away too quickly. So Chris Jordan will probably come in for either Tushar Deshpande or Mukesh Chaudhary. That will round off the team a little bit. But really, who can you get in? Can you get Hangargekar in? He's just a kid. He's just played under 19 cricket. So you sort of blood him in. People say good things about Simarjeet Singh, but I mean, Deepak Chahar is a hole that they are finding it very, very difficult to fill.
He is the Surya Kumar Yadav of Chennai at the moment. Such an impact he's had that miss is going to be huge. And also, they'd like a few from someone who's been scoring runs almost for fun in previous seasons for them. Right at the top, of course, I'm talking Ruturaj Gaikwad, Joy.
Ruturaj, absolutely. He hasn't got runs, but look, I do not think at this point in time Chennai is that much worried about their batting. They feel they're actually getting runs from Dhoni, who hasn't really given them consistent runs in a while. I think they'll think that their batting, they'll get together. People like Ambati Raidu and all the guys who are just so dependable, they'll get it together. Their bowling is what is bothering them. If they get that together, and also they need a win under their belt. They have never been, in their 12 seasons, they've never been 0-2. So if they ever go, they've never been 0-2 in their lives. So if they go 0-3, that's going to be a big one. So for them, it's about just gaining that confidence, getting a win on the board and saying, giving Jadeja his first win at captains, getting off those initial blues that you have, that nervousness. You have now like a first run. Like if you do that Boni as a captain, you win that match, I think he'll just settle down a lot more, I think.
And of course, Harsha,
one last word from me on CSK. Yeah. One last word on CSK. If you look down that squad again with CSK, if you continue to have Dew, what kind of spinners are bowling well? Ashwin is an aberration. Ashwin's in a different league. What kind of spinners are bowling well? Rahul Chahar has bowled very well. Yuzvendra Chahal has bowled very well. Ravi Bishnoi has had a couple of very good games. Rashid Khan has bowled well. You're seeing where I'm going. They don't have a wrist spinner in their team other than Prashant Solanki down there. So I just wonder if they're being tempted to look at Mahesh Deekshana and say, okay, he's not a wrist spinner traditionally, but maybe he's a bit like Mujib, isn't he?
A little
bit like
bit,
Mujib does lots with his fingers.
Yeah.
So I wonder if they're thinking, okay, we'll play Mahesh Deekshana in there and see how it goes from there. Or maybe then get Jordan for Pretorius. I mean, Pretorius bowled very well, so you can't leave him out now. But yeah.
Yeah, I was also going to say that two of our colleagues from Cricbuzz Live have been doing rather well with the bat. Dinesh Karthik, of course, and Robin Uthappa.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And look, Robin actually settled in. That's why I'm saying the batting is not a problem. With Robin coming good and, the kind of players that they have, Rituraj will come well. I mean, you're opening your innings with two orange cap winners. I mean, how many teams can say that? You have Ambati Raitu to follow. You have Jadeja to follow. You have people like Bravo who can bat right at the end. So I don't think they're worried about their batting. They know it'll come to it. And they have that calm confidence. They've done it before. It's just that they have to sort their bowling. And I think just one thing, just Jordan being fit. Jordan walking into the squad will immediately, replacing one of those two bowlers, will just immediately make a difference, I feel.
Just trying to think the number of games Robin Uthappa spent in that yellow jersey, but sitting in the dugout with Faf du Plessis in the side. And now he's found his niche, he's found his spot, and he's scoring runs. We just hope for Robin's sake it keeps going. So good on you if you're watching. If you watch Cricbuzz Live as much as you've been spending time on it, we hope you do. So that's as far as...
I asked him about the bat. I said, Robin, whatever happens, man, don't break this bat. He said, I've had it for a long time. So, yeah.
Well, that's as far as one team is concerned. There will be two teams out there in the park. What's the thinking in the camp in red? The men from Punjab. After that run chase, the high of the run chase against Bangalore, it was all sort of not crashing down, but certainly they're in that in-between phase, wondering which Punjab is going to turn up, Joy.
Yeah, but I think that's what I'm saying. This Punjab is also a strong side. All they need to do is hold their nerve. And that's not what something Punjab is used to doing. They're used to making sweeping changes after one or two defeats. But I think this is a very solid batting unit. They still have a few problems with bowling because you have really two outstanding bowlers. You have Rabada and you have Chahar. You have two outstanding bowlers. You have Arshdeep, who's a very decent support bowler. I really think Odean Smith, if you're depending on him to give you anything more than a couple of changeovers, you're asking for too much. So two things need to happen. Either Liam Livingston needs to bowl a lot more, give them a little, couple of overs there. Because I can't see the kind of bowling Odean Singh buttles in, but his pace is just the kind of thing that nobody is scared of 140 plus pace anymore if you're going to give them a place to place it. And I think that's the problem with Odean Smith. So they will be looking at that and wondering how do they solve that bowling conundrum. Again, two sides, both have fairly decent batting units, and in Punjab's case, very explosive. What happens to the bowling?
Here's the options, Harsha, of what possible replacements you can have in there. Obviously, the addition of Rabada is
money. Yeah. No, yeah, I think Rabada has made a big difference. But listen, did they pay a lot of money for Vaibhav Arora?
I'm not
so
sure.
they have enough bowling options. They have Arora, they have Ishan Porel. Poor guy, he doesn't seem to get a game, but he's actually started to bowl better and better for Bengal. Baltej Singh has done really well for Punjab. So from that point of view, they have bowling options. They've played Raj Baba in the side, but haven't given him the ball yet. And he took 5 wickets in the under-19 final. So it's definitely good for a couple of overs at least. But they're using him as a number 5 batsman, which is interesting because they don't trust Odean Smith to bat at number 5. So definitely bowling issues. Remember in their first game, which they won, they conceded 205. And in the second game, they couldn't defend 137 well enough because Rabada was welcome arrival. So they have issues, Punjab, with the bowling, which they'll need to sort at some point. So it just dovetails well into our theory that the top 3 teams are the best bowling sides.
Yeah, certainly are, and that they will look at that. I think Harsha summed that up perfectly with their 2 performances. There might have been 1 win and 1 loss, but that 1 win was because of an outstanding run chase. Their 1 loss, it should have been 2 wins on the trot, but they just found Andre Russell and company too hot to handle. So should be an interesting matchup there.
Anybody would have.
Chennai desperately looking for a win. Punjab desperately looking to put the campaign back on track. Still early days, but you don't want to fall too far behind on that points table. Well, we've talked about Chennai, we've talked about Punjab, we've had 4 teams who have played today. One more important topic to talk about. Seems years ago, Joy, that you posed that question. In fact, it was yesterday. So remind us of the question again and then give us the answer.
So which current Indian cricketer made his first-class debut around 5 months before his test debut and his T20 debut 5 years after his test debut? That means somebody who really transitioned very fast from first class to test cricket, but then took a long time before he made into T20s, and he's played ODIs as well. And it's Jaydev Unadkat, if you remember. Because Jaydev played literally 3 first-class games before he played test cricket. And that's his only test match still. I mean, he played that test match in South Africa in 2010, and he hasn't played another test match. He played some one-day internationals against Zimbabwe in 2013, then played T20s in 2015 against Zimbabwe, but that's Jaydev. I hope he's going to play a big part in this IPL latter half, of course. I think Zahir is saving him up for the latter half of the tournament.
Yep, he's made some franchise changes, but who was the one who spotted that? This wasn't a half volley by any means from Joy, and I'm glad to say it seems like a relatively new name on the list, Vasu Agarwal. Well done, Vasu. Welcome to the party. And we'd love to have it. I'd love to know how long it took. We have records of that as to how long it took, because there's so many of you answering the correct answer. Vasu Agarwal, the winner of our Joy Factor question. We've had lots of fun, as we tend to do, over, a couple of games, the double header. Tomorrow, it's Sunday, single header time, Brabant Stadium. Harsha, are you back at the Brabant?
Yes, back at the Brabant Stadium. CSK, CSK Punjab, interesting game. You're right. You're absolutely right. All the CSK fans will be sitting there and say, "Give us one. Let's get off. Let's get our campaign running."
You walk to the Brabant from your hotel, Harsha?
I wish I could.
Oh, you're not allowed to.
There is no freedom. There is no freedom. We live in cages. We flutter our wings, and then the wings just hit the bars.
I touched the raw nerve there.
All those images that come to mind. So now when housekeeping knocks at the door, I don't know who's outside. I just go and do this, thinking that someone's going to put a swab up my nose. And the other day, my nose spoke to me. My nose spoke to me today and said, it's been a few hours since a swab of cotton went in. What's the matter?
Yeah,
I'm actually just thinking, so my nose doesn't get out of practice, that I'll just take one of these earbuds and just keep putting it in my nose just to give my nose practice.
The topics we talk about on the show, but it just, the moment Harsha mentioned where he was staying, it took me back to the Women's World Cup that I was part of, and that walk we used to do every day from the Oberoi or the Trident to the
long walk to freedom.
The long walk to freedom. And in the evening, it's a lovely walk when the sun is setting on Marine Drive. But you won't rub it in, Harsha. You live there. You're going to get enough of it. You're going to get enough of it once the tournament's over. You can see the sunset outside your window.
Are you in Kolkata or Gurgaon?
I'm in Kolkata.
Walk around, eat your puchkas, and go, walk around, add your jhalmuri. Go around, go.
It's a small price to pay to be in the commentary box, Harsha. So look, all the best for tomorrow, Chennai versus Punjab. We shall be listening intently. Joy, thank you very much for today. Double header. And of course, to all of you, loyally keep tuning into Cricbuzz Live. Thank you. Keep it going. We'll be back tomorrow. Remember, it's a single header, not a Sunday double header. So tune in tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. Until then, from all of us, it's goodbye.